ever been in a really toxic situation with another person? They're being abusive in some way, shape and form, and then something happens and they turn around and say, I'm really, really sorry. It won't happen again. I'll change. Is it really enough just to listen to the words that they've said? Or do we need to look deeper at another area that they're not talking about? Now, my role is a trauma therapist, and I deal with a lot of domestic abuse, and in the home, obviously, or it could be in the workplace, or whatever area it may be. And I want to give you an example from my own life here to share that I've experienced this and how it can completely catch you off guard when that person says, I'll change. So both of my parents drank a lot of alcohol. I actually lost my dad when I was 12 years old through alcohol abuse. And my mum, although she hasn't drunk for probably 20 years now, when I was young, she used to cycle her binge drinking. So she'll drink for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and then be sober and be back to being the best mum ever. Because when she was sober, she really was absolutely wonderful. But what would happen, because obviously both parents of mine were dealing with depression, which is what people, when they're using emotionally abusive behaviour, are dealing with depression and trauma and overwhelm. That's why people are abusive. But with my mum, when she was sober, she would feel guilty, like a lot of people do, because inside we always know when we're doing something wrong. And my mum, on many occasions, would say, I'm really, really sorry. And she meant it. She was really genuinely very sorry, but she was struggling with depression. And then she would say, I won't drink again, I'll change. And I remember the very first time she ever said that, and I felt totally elation. I'd probably be about 8 years old. And I felt, this is it, it's over. I couldn't believe my ears. It was absolutely wonderful. But then, obviously, when people say I'll change but don't do anything about it, it comes back. Now, that's not to say everybody would do that. It's obviously each individual perspective. But for me, when I saw my mum drinking again, after she said she won't drink again and she'll change, it was so overwhelming for me to deal with. I didn't know what to do because she'd said that she'll change. Now, you can get a lot of people experiencing that, especially in domestic abuse as adults. So the really intense situations, maybe where social workers need to get involved or the authorities. And then a person who's using the abusive behaviour will say to their partner, it's okay, I'll change. But are they actually doing anything to change? If they're not doing anything to change, then what we have to ask the question is, well, are you going to change? Because it's like that phrase, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And if somebody says, I'll change, that's easy enough to say, it's just a few words. But what are they actually doing to change? Are they reading books? Are they going on courses? Are they doing something? Are they talking to new people? Are they changing their habits? Or are they doing, say, one-to-one therapy? And if nothing in their life, in their actions and their behaviours is changing, especially around facing, say, mental health or their trauma, then you have to ask yourself, well, if they aren't doing anything different in their life, how are they going to change? Because if you watch any of my other videos on this channel all around the different parts of the mind, such as conscious mind, subconscious mind, and Pandora's box, which stores trauma, well, if they aren't dealing with the thing that's causing them to be abusive, then is it not just going to repeat? So in a summary to that first part there, that's the person. If they are being abusive or being toxic in some way, then we have to ask ourselves, if they say they will change, then what is it that they are doing to change? And is it enough just to take them at the word and say, oh, they'll change, I'll trust them for that? Or will it start coming back? But the second part, and the very important part as well, the content or information in these videos is for educational and informational purposes only, is about us as individuals. You see, if we've got somebody in our life who's being toxic or overwhelming or abusive in some way, shape and form, then if they say they'll change, then we just take them at their word and don't even question that. Then it's also for us to take responsibility for our own lives as well. Because if somebody says they'll change and they're being abusive towards us, and we just say, oh, okay, you'll change, that's fine, but then we don't do anything about checking on that person and if they are changing, then in essence, we aren't taking responsibility for ourselves as well. Now, I'm very aware that domestic abuse can be incredibly overwhelming, and we could be in a major shutdown stage. So it's not about criticizing yourself. If you are in this experience at the moment, please do not see anything that I'm talking about in this video as a criticism or judgment. You see, if you're overwhelmed, maybe in a situation, the other person's overwhelmed, it could be that both people are shut down in an overly stressed, hypervigilant state. And sometimes when we get into that cycle, we start looping and repeating. I myself was in a very toxic situation where my life was being threatened. And although other people were saying, just get out, just leave, I didn't do. And I remember feeling that shame and embarrassment as people were saying, just get out. And I was like, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't I get out? You see, the mind is a very complex area. So if you are in this situation, I just wanted to share to you, don't judge yourself for it. So in a summary to this video, it's absolutely vital that we look at both sides of the equations here. It's if a person is being toxic or abusive in some way, shape and form, and they say, I'm really, really sorry, I'll change, then we have to ask ourselves, should you choose to, is that person actually going to change? Are they doing anything different? Or are they just saying that they'll change? And then sooner or later, it might start repeating itself again. But also, and I know this is not the easiest thing to do if you're in that situation and overwhelmed. I know because I've been there myself. But if that person is being overbearing and toxic to you in some way, shape and form, then look within inside yourself and ask yourself, what is it inside that you want from this situation? Do you believe that they'll come back? Are you living in hope that they will eventually one day change? But deep down inside, you know that maybe they won't, and you have to make that decision from there. Or could it be that you feel so overwhelmed, you don't know what else to do? So you're really trying to make it all work, but you're just caught in that loop. It's not always the easiest situation, but sometimes what I find for myself and a lot of other people is if we just live day to day and keep thinking, well, tomorrow they'll change, all those days are going by and it could actually be getting more and more intense for you. So one day you may even wake up and go, I don't know how to get out of this anymore. And that can happen a lot. So I wanted to make this video around this area as broad as possible. So it could be a tiny little challenge you've got going on at work where somebody's being rude and they say, I'll change. Or it could be a really overwhelming situation where you need a lot of support from the people, including the authorities. If you've got any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions on this topic that we're covering, I know it's a very sensitive topic. And if you do want to share anything that may help other people who are reading the comments not feel alone, feel free to put them in the comments below. And especially on this area, as I always say in every video, you never know, your comment could change somebody else's life for the better forever.